I've been teaching for approximately 15 years and about 14 years of teaching distance education courses. Throughout that 14 years, I've been certified many times for teaching online. So today's topic is going to be enhancing the student learning through online discussion and activities in online mathematics and statistics courses. So the outline of today's presentation is I want to share with you our Barstow Community College Distance Education Regular Effective Contact Policy, which is based on California Code of Regulations Title V, Sections 55202 and 55204, and also some regulations relating to, from Chancellor's Office and also ACCJC. Basically what it is, we are mandated that our online courses would have the same quality teaching as if it was face-to-face. And also we are required to have a local policy relating to regular contact. And we did actually review and modified our this semesters, and I kind of want to share part of it with you because it relates to what I'm going to be talking about today. The next topic I want to talk about, using discussion board in online courses. Why is it important of the interactivity? The third is engaging student in active learning, which is a powerful statement. It has three important words in them. One is engaging and also active learning. Then I'm going to demonstrate with you 5 sample activities that I use in online mathematics and statistics courses. Now I chose these 5 carefully because each one is actually delivered in a different way, and those are one of the favorite my students' activities. And then we're going to discuss the benefits and the challenges of actually dealing with this type of activities in the discussion board. And then will be time for general discussion and questions and answers. The regular effective contact policy, which is the handout back there you have, I just picked the one that it relates to today's topic, which is the BCC mandatory type of contact. We do require, this is a required mandatory contact, and it's also some that faculty could choose. One of them is a weekly threaded discussion. That is extremely important, and all our courses do have a weekly threaded discussion for them. Then timely feedback on student assignments. If we give assignments to the instructor assign assignments to the students, we're expected to grade them within 5 days. Actually, mine is within a minute because I use Blackboard. Timely feedback to students' questions, that's 48 hours. That's pretty common practice. Weekly announcements in learning management system and responses to frequently asked questions. And general emails and messaging through LMS. Instructor prepared materials. This is also an important. We don't send our students to different sites and say, oh, go read from this publisher sites or do some research about the materials. We're required to have our own lecture materials, just like we prepare in face-to-face classes. And of course, online quizzes and exams. And now I'm going to demonstrate to you how we actually implement all this through one of my courses that I'm teaching this summer. Oh, actually, I don't have to go through that because I already had it open. Now, this is not my computer, so it's going to take me a little bit to navigate. Here's my statistics course, and our stat course is actually articulated with CSU and UC. It's a 4-unit, and it also has a lab component, which students are required to use technology to perform statistical computations. And here's how I actually implement our regulations. I have instructor posting area, where I recommend students to start there. I also have questions and answers about the course. So any questions relating to the course, students could post there. And then I have the weekly modules. Our online classes are 9 weeks long, so they're kind of condensed. So if referring to module 1, I have always write the overview of an objective of why this course is, what's the objective of this lesson. what students are going to learn, and I always tie it to the course objective and student learning outcome. And then I also tell them how they're going to be assessed. And my homeworks and quizzes are actually done in my math lab, where students actually can connect through the website. Then I have the learning materials. That's kind of an important before we get to the discussion board. So I have my lecture summary. This is lecture prepared by me. And then I have a PowerPoint slides, and we also have a video lectures for students. Keep popping up and keep closing. Now the assessment. I also have animated activity to the students where students could go and explore the statistics. My math lab homework, even though it is provided in my math lab, I actually put some password on it. Just want to make sure that students go through this website before you get into my math lab. I also have a student chat room. I also have the discussion question and discussion board. And one of the activities actually that I included is this week's topic, which is the hand size versus height. This is a discussion board, example of a discussion board, where I give instructions to the students what to do and what they're going to learn. And then I also have the discussion board where actually students go and post. So, which in a few minutes I will discuss the activity with you. The first part of it, students actually measure their hand size and post it in the discussion board. And after a few days, I collect the data and then post another link for them to use the data to perform simple linear regression. So this is students. And when I can't see them present, I always send them messages and post them also on this discussion board. And some of them get sweet messages through the email if they don't participate. So this is kind of how I set up our website and how organized it should be so students could benefit from it. So instructors should be actually competent of teaching online, being able to organize it in a way, provide the information to students so they could grasp the material, then jump to the discussion board. I'm going to take you back to the PowerPoint. Discussion board forum, I believe, and I've done some research, and that the discussion board is for the heart of the online courses. All of the other requirements that we have to communicate with the students, I believe the discussion board is part of the online discussion courses. Any thoughts that you have? And here's some more. This came from research and some studies. Why we use discussion board and what's the importance of interactivity. It helps to keep students motivated and to make them feel like part of a learning community. Enhance cognitive critical thinking and writing skills. Empower students to express themselves. And this is kind of hard for face-to-face classes. Sometimes students are very shy and they just don't like participating because everybody is watching at them. So in this case, if it's online, they will feel more secure. It also allows time for thoughtful, in-depth reflection in course topics, and approach learning in diverse way by reviewing and responding to the work of others. And they exchange ideas. The coursework becomes more engaging and enhance student learning, that's what our goal is. This is a statement that I mentioned earlier. It's very powerful. It contains 3 words: engaging students in active learning. I'm just going to take you in a few quotations to support this statement. Have you seen this before? You know where? In the exhibit hall. I was thinking of a quotation and I just walked in there and in the Engage Learning, and I saw this and I said, you know what? I'm going to include that in my PowerPoint. This is a really nice quote. It says, "Tell me and I forget. teach me and I remember, engage me and I learn. And it's a Chinese proverb. And I found another quotation that I thought it will help us understand that statement better. Active learning is defined as any strategy that involves students in doing things and thinking about the things that they are doing. Active learning is creative excitement in the classroom, and I feel exactly the same way. I enjoy this. I get the same enjoyment as my students do when they do the activities in the discussion board. And those are the references. Now I'm going to go over, I know we started late, I want to make sure that I go through the activities and kind of engage you in these activities and just assume that you're students as we do this. And each one has a different way of presenting thoughts to the students. So the first one is activity 1, and sheets are back there, and you could pair with somebody, and I'm going to give you some time to actually see what you think. Now, in this handout, what I'm providing is 2 tables and with some instructions. Those are the tables that I entered in. It looked different because of the accessibility issue. So I have table, it's called the mystery event and its history. This creates lots of excitement for the students in the class. And this topic is appropriate for statistics courses and when you're dealing with probability, especially for students to understand the difference, the dependent and independent events, and also perform conditional probabilities. So I want you just to take a few minutes and look at the tables. Well, I'm giving them 2 tables, and I'm asking them, is there any difference between the probability of death between male and female? Is there a difference between the economic status? Just look at it, take a few minutes and see if I could get a feedback from you. What do you think? Has anybody seen these tables before? It seems like it was presented in some conferences and it's commonly used in with students. Any thoughts? What do you think it might be? And the detailed, actually, the handout that I gave you shows what the goals of the activity is and instructions and also rubric. Try to create discussion. Okay. No comments? Nobody could guess what it is of you seen? Okay. Sometimes students actually Google from the words that I use in the questions, and they're smart, so I try to eliminate this kind of words and try to make it as kind of big as I could make so they can't guess it. Because once they guess it, then it just ruined the whole thing, because the whole point is just to give the other students a chance to guess. And it turns out to be the Titanic data. But it's a very, very good exercise for students to actually look at the table from the raw data, come up with probabilities, and make a reasoning and logical guess of the event. They come up with sort of clever, guesses, and you have to challenge them back, but it makes it very, very interesting. And this kind of gives them a little bit of a history, even though it's tragic, but just they know what happened that particular day. 1,500 people lost their lives. So that's activity number 1. Any questions, or it's just very popular? Yes.
So, well, I don't actually teach math. I'm an instructional designer, so forgive me if I'm not accurate with things. But when you're asking students questions and participating in the discussion board, in this particular case, it feels like they're just observing data and responding to the data. But if they ever have to write things with equations or special characters, how do you deal with that in the discussion?
Well, actually, this particular one is a computation where students actually calculate the probability of surviving if you're female or male. This is a calculation. But I do have some other activities that would relate how to write an equation, and you'll see one of them. That's a 1-grain rice data, the example. Good point. Thank you. Of course. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. The second one is, and this is a kind of a nice one too, it's, should you apologize to your friend? This is appropriate for, and actually it's from a textbook, algebra textbook. And it could be elementary or intermediate algebra class, just depending on the level of the students. So here's a formula which is called the Greek logic, and it's used to actually represent real-life situations. And in this example, students would learn how to actually apply formulas into real-world problems. So this formula is given, and each variable in this formula assigns a number between 0 and 10. And of course, the R sub P is different than R sub A. Actually, that's my alarm. So students are encouraged to come up with a story, would remind them, or something in a real life situation where actually think whether whether they should have apologized or did not apologize to something have happened. So students create their own story. So this kind of brings a lot of curiosity in the discussion board, where students present the problem and they assign numbers to the variables and identify what the variables are, and they put it in the equation, and the equation is very pathetic. It says if it's 5 or greater, you should always apologize. So students always end up being that they needed to apologize. Sometimes they think they shouldn't have, and I ask them to go and play with the variables and see if they could change the scale, how to change the scale to make it actually work for the best favor of them. So this is another activity that's kind of popular. The next one is how well can hand size predict height. And this is an interesting example. It's the one that my students are doing. This is when we use this, I use this when I teach the least square regression lesson, where students actually collect their own data. So they collect their hand size, and there are different ways you could actually measure the hand size, but I want them to measure the way it looks, and also measure their height to see whether there is a relationship between hand size and height. And this could be also kind of important for law enforcement, because, for example, if someone left a handprint on a car or someplace else, could we actually predict the height based on the hand size? So students actually submit their data, and then I collect the data and then summarize it, and then give it back to the students and ask them follow-up questions. And you should see all that information and questions posted in the activity 3. Any questions? So they come up with the model and everything else. Yes?
I have a question. So can they see questions?
Yes.
So couldn't students just copy and understand, or do they have to have their own data or something?
No, actually, that's possible. All right, but you could tell because they have to provide an Excel spreadsheet where it shows the output, so they cannot really go ahead and copy it, because we're in this class we require the lab. So to actually analyze the data, students have to enter into Excel, have an output, and then use the output to answer the questions. Then what I do is I also ask the follow-up questions, how to predict someone's height based on the equation given, and then I ask them to predict theirs. So their height would be different. So it's just kind of, you could get around it, but if they're going to copy, sometimes they can. And I tried in Moodle to see whether actually I could have the student to post it and not be able to read before, actually they posted, but it created some other technical issues we couldn't. Yes?
Do you think you have really, just reform given FAQ? Reform FAQ type, they have to read your code piece and respond to it before they can read the other response.
We did try that one. Thanks for sharing. And I'm going to go back to our online office and talk to them about it, because it may be a glitch with our system or something, because it didn't work for us. We tried, but I'm just certainly going to take the recommendation, because I really want to that happen. Yes? Yeah, but we can't refer students in our campus to my math lab to do that. It has to be 2 hours. Yeah, I know. I like that too. Yes. Any other comments? Okay, this is really interesting one too. How many of you seen this? Okay, now I want you to take a few minutes and read the activity sheet for 4. And it's not long. I kind of want to give you the feeling of this activity. And I actually don't provide this link to the students all at the same time because I don't want them to know the story. So first I asked them whether by looking at the cover of the book, can they tell what the story should be? So the first part of the discussion board, which I give them about 3 days, some questions they kind of discuss, and then I post the second part of the discussion board, which is the videos part 1 and part 2 and part 3. But this actually activity has some history behind it too, so I'm going to play it for you, part 1. Volume? Volume?
Long ago, in India, there lived a Raja who believed that he was wise and fair, as a Raja should be. The people in his province were rice farmers. The Raja decreed that everyone must give nearly all their rice to him. "I will store the rice safely," the Raja promised the people, "so that in time of famine, everyone will have rice to eat and no one will go hungry." Each year, the Raja's rice collectors gathered nearly all of the people's rice and carried it away to the royal storehouses. For many years, the rice grew well. The people gave nearly all of their rice to the Raja, and the storehouses were always full. But the people were left with only just enough rice to get by. Then one year, the rice grew badly, and there was famine and hunger. The people had no rice to give to the Raja, and they had no rice to eat. The Raja's ministers implored him, "Your Highness, let us open the royal storehouses and give the rice to the people as you promised." "No," cried the Raja. "How do I know how long the famine may last? I must have rice for myself. Promise or no promise, a Raja must not go hungry." Time went on, and the people grew more and more hungry, but the Raja would not give out the rice. One day, the Raja ordered a feast for himself and his court, as it seemed to him a Raja should now and then, even when there was time of famine. A servant led an elephant from a royal storehouse to the palace carrying 2 full baskets of rice. A village girl named Rainey saw that a trickle of rice was falling from one of the baskets. Quickly, she jumped up and walked along beside the elephant, catching the falling rice in her skirt. She was clever, and she began to make a plan. At the palace, a guard cried, "Halt! Thief! Where are you going with that rice?" "I'm not a thief," Rainey replied. "This rice fell from one of the baskets, and I'm returning it now to the Raja." When the Raja heard about Rainey's good deed, he asked his ministers to bring her before him. "I wish to reward you for returning what belongs to me," the Raja said to Rainey. "Ask me for anything, and you shall have it."
That's part 1. And the question is for students, what should Ronnie ask as a reward? I mean, you get all types of things, very clever ideas. And then carry on to the second part, and I do have the questions in the activity sheet for you. This is the page where students have to fill out for 30 days, and this actually activity is good for algebra, intermediate algebra, and college algebra when students know exponential functions. And actually just watching this movies, they would come up with a model. This is the second part.
Your Highness, said Rainy, I do not deserve any reward at all. But if you wish, you may give me 1 grain of rice. Only 1 grain of rice? Exclaimed the Rajah. Surely you will allow me to reward you more plentifully, as a Rajah should. Very well, said Rainy. If it pleases your Highness, you may reward me in this way. Today, you will give me a single grain of rice. Then, each day, for 30 days, you give me double the rice you gave me the day before. Thus, tomorrow, you will give me 2 grains of rice. The next day, 4 grains of rice, and so on for 30 days. This seems still to be a modest reward, said the Rajah, but you shall have it. And Rainy was presented with a single grain of rice. The next day, Rainy was presented with 2 grains of rice. And the following day, Rainy was presented with 4 grains of rice. On the 9th day, Rainy was presented with 256 grains of rice. She had received in all 511 grains of rice, only enough for a small handful. This girl is honest, but not very clever, thought the Rajah. She would have gained more rice keeping what fell into her skirt. On the 12th day, Rainy received 2,048 grains of rice, about 4 handfuls. On the 13th day, she received 4,096 grains of rice, enough to fill a bowl. On the 16th day, Rainy was presented with a bag containing 32,768 grains of rice. Altogether, she had enough rice for 2 full bags. This doubling adds up to more rice than I expected, thought the Rajah. Surely her reward won't amount to much more. On the 20th day, Rainy was presented with 16 more bags filled with rice. On the 21st day, she received 1,048,576 grains of rice, enough to fill a basket. On the 24th day, Rainy was presented with 8,388,608 grains of rice, enough to fill 8 baskets, which were carried to her by 8 royal deer. On the 27th day, 32 Brahma bulls were needed to deliver 64 baskets of rice. The Rajah was deeply troubled. 1 grain of rice has grown very great indeed, he thought, but I shall fulfill the reward to the end, as a Rajah should.
So after students actually watch the second part of the YouTube, I have them to fill out the form, refer to the activity sheet, and fill out that all the information, and then answer the questions and go back to the discussion board to post. And then finally, have them watch the third part of the YouTube and complete the discussion.
On the 29th day, Rainy was presented with the contents of 2 royal storehouses. On the 30th and final day, 256 elephants crossed the province, carrying the contents of the last 4 royal storehouses, 536,870,912 grains of rice. Altogether, Rainy had received more than 1 billion grains of rice. The Rajah had no more rice to give. And what will you do with this rice? Said the Rajah with a sigh, now that I have none. I shall give it to all the hungry people, said Rainy, and I shall leave a basket of rice for you too, if you promise from now on to take only as much rice as you need. I promise, said the Rajah. And for the rest of his days, the Rajah was truly wise and fair, as a Rajah should be.
So this is it. This is really good exercise, I found, and most of students come up with the equation of this particular grain of rice example. You already figured out the equation? Formula? to the n minus 1, yeah. So it's really good, nice, cool exercise. Any comments or suggestions, questions? Okay, let's move to the next one, which is the they would come up with the formula.
But I think it would early because you know, it's a little difficult to write special characters and things like that. A lot of these have to imagine.
Well, actually, we do have a math symbols they could use, or even they type in. So it's just, you know, they use the hat for the power, or sometimes they spell it out. So that's what they use. This example relates to statistics courses, and which is a sampling distribution of sample mean and central limit theorem. Anyone here who teaches statistics? Oh, okay. Okay. You know, when we were taking stat class, we were told, oh, well, when the central limit theorem, when the sample size get large, you know, sample means approaches to normal distribution. Well, we believed it. Now these days, you know, I just say we believe it, but I want my students to see why this is the case, why actually this is happening. So I do have an exercise where students go to the statlab.com, which is a free website. It's part of it is funded by the National Science Foundation, which I'm going to take you in, just to show students actually as the sample size increases, how the sampling distribution of the mean distribution looks normal. How many of you used the simulation? I'm trying to figure out where that was. Did I lose my internet? Yeah, it's right here. Okay. If you want to go, they have more than, you know, one simulation. So this is the Rice Virtual Lab, and then under simulation and demonstration, I picked the sampling distribution, and this is how students begin. And I also have a worksheet attached to the activity, as you see, where students have to experiment, use the applet, and respond to the questions. It's attached to the lesson. So it begins. You know, I have some instructions for students how it looks and what they should do. But the way it works is you could have the choice of picking a parent population and then taking a sample from them, different sizes, and then observe what happens to the means as the sample size increases. You could start with normal, or you could actually customize it, you know, customize anything you want. You could make it some crazy distribution. It doesn't matter what, but the whole point is it doesn't matter the beauty of the central limit theorem. It doesn't matter the parent population. As long as the sample size is large, then we know the sampling distribution of the mean converges into normal. So let's start with that, and then start with animation with 5. So you take 5 data points from the parent population, and it drops a point, and then also marks the mean. And more samples you take, and you start seeing what's happening with the means. And you could speeden up the process, and you could get 10,000 or even 100,000. That's way too much, but you just see that how the distribution actually shows more of a normal. And on the right side, also students could see what the mean of the population is versus the mean of the sampling distribution of the mean. So you see, kind of students could go and compare. We can even have compare different scales. We could take 5 here, and then there are, of course, some more information there, skewness and kurtosis. I'm not sure how deep you get into, but those are, if the numbers are close to 0, that shows more of a normal distribution. So this is a good activity for students actually to see how the central limit applies into different samples. And after that, actually, I do give them a real-life example of where this actually will apply, and that is in my worksheet. I misplaced it. I'm going to grab one of the ones in the back. It says, according to National Center for Health Statistics, the distribution of serum cholesterol level for 20 to 74-year-old male living in the United States has a mean of 211 milligram and standard deviation of 46. We are planning to collect a sample of 200 individuals and measure their cholesterol level. What is the probability that our sample average will be above 230? And I asked the student to give us a hint how to solve the problem. Any questions about this activity? What's the benefits and challenges? The benefits are all above. Engaging students in active learning. What the challenges are? What do you think the challenges are? What I've been seeing in our campus is main issue is faculty preparation and training, that they're trained enough to actually teach distance education courses. And I see the other part is lack of student organization, motivation, and time management. Those are very important factors. So certainly online is not for everyone, but it's an option for students. Is there anything that you like to, any challenges that you've seen on your campus that you like to share?
I have one question. So, I mean, the benefit of discussion boards is they can actually interact with each other and have this. But do you find that the questions you're asking are engaging and they can actually comment on each other, or is it really just a method of getting answers to their back?
No, actually, I do have a rubric, and there's one actually rubric. I put it back there, which mine is kind of a customized, I mean, similar to what I have back there. No, they have to not respond, oh, it's a good thought or something. Sometimes they correct each other, and sometimes they come up with an idea, because I respond back to them or sending an email, this is not, you know, good as response. If you could kind of give a little bit more explanation what you're trying to do. Of course, it's going to be always some students, you know, just wait the last minute and they just go ahead and put something just to get the credit. But the instructor has to be given a good feedback and challenge them. I always challenge them. I don't put all the questions in the discussion board. When they post their answers, then I come up with follow-up questions and I respond to their post. Now here's the challenge. If we have, the cap in our school is 50. 50 is a lot of students in online class, lots of. I also teach for Excelsior College, and their classes are, which is you know, based in Albany, New York. I teach statistics classes for them, and their actually discussion board is similar. Their students, they would not have more than 25 students in the class, and that's a lot for them. We started with 15 and so forth. You get that one-to-one correspondence. Still with we having that 50 students in the class, there are dropout rate. It's kind of a high, so, and because it's not everybody's prepared or ready for online environment. But I like to respond to every post in every discussion board to every student, give them something. So it's kind of a challenging. It is it's depend on the semester. Sometimes we get a lot of good students, and sometimes it's just not. I mean, I draw students from all over. We have a really good. Our statistics class is very reputable, and I get from a lot of students from CFUs take this class. So, and it's the same course. I went both UCs, UC Santa Barbara and UCLA. We use the same material. In fact, actually 1 unit more. Same concept, the same standards. So it's transferred them just like we say to CSU, UC, but it's kind of a challenging. Any other thoughts that I'd like to learn from you too? What happens to your campus? Do you have a lot of dropout rate for students? And it's a big issue. And one of them is, the 3 that I found, and I did some research, is one of them, like I said, student motivation. They're not organized, and time management is important. And if the instructor doesn't give them a feedback, timely feedback, they feel very isolated, just like doing independent study. And that's another reason. Another reason would be technical issues. Students are not really good using technology. And if that's the case, how do you actually take an online class? So I think if we screened them better at the beginning, but you know, just the open access to everybody, everybody could register to the class. So maybe that would prevent it. I'm not sure. We're still doing some study. Any other thoughts that you have? How many of you taught online classes actually? All of you do. Math? And what do you use? Completely? And what's the success rate? Is it good? I love my math lab. I love their homework assignments. I love their quizzes that help me solve buttons, and everything else is provided. It's extremely useful. Yes?
Just want you to know that my math lab in August is releasing an LPR that will coordinate with your Moodle class. So talk to your Moodle administrator, and an LPR means that any grades that are in my math lab will come right back into your grade book in Moodle.
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing. That's great, because I usually import it to Excel, you know, and then do it manually enter in Moodle. So that's good. That's great.
And they're also doing a single sign-up. So when you sign into Moodle, they'll click my math lab and go on your website and you'll create my math lab.
That's great.
It's not connected to sign-up.
Thanks. Thanks for sharing. That's great. Any other thoughts?
I'm also an instructional designer, so I'm just trying to figure out what the application and use cases are for this. Do you find in your discussions that the answers that you're getting from the students are all very similar? Because I noticed in math classes that in my portfolio, there's a right and there's a wrong. You know, there's a right answer and everything else is wrong. So do you find that comes up where the answers that you're getting in discussion forums are pretty much the same?
Oh, that happened in the, yes, it does happen, especially if you say, give them an equation and ask them to solve. For example, if you notice the questions that I ask for him, I mean, you know how Ronnie would think. I mean, you know, they have to come up with theirs, because word by word catching, I mean, writing the answer is kind of a hard. But if you kind of ask the question a different way, just giving them activities where they cannot cheat, they cannot copy and paste, that happens. Some students, you know, say, oh, I just posted it and I know somebody just copied it. And sometimes they copy exactly the words where you could see it, you know, even though I have an academic honesty statement and I email them back, but I don't give them, I start changing around where they don't have to actually give me the exact, you know, the same answer as all of them do. But with this 2 to the n minus 1, the equation for the exponential function, I get a lot of different answers. I mean, you know,
what you think is the correct solution. Now, are those components that you're grading as well, or are those means to encourage participation?
Well, actually, it's kind of a depending if they're responding exactly to the questions. If it's a thought, you know, if that's what they're thinking, it's a thought, but they have to respond to the question. So sometimes they get off of the tangent, they give you a different answer, but you have to put them back in, telling them they have to answer only the question, no extra explanation. But it makes it, you know, you have to be kind of lenient when you're grading the discussion. I care about their participation. I care about them learning. So even the 20% of the grade is a discussion, and I kind of look at the overall, based on the rubric that I have. So you just can't be exact, you know. You have to be kind of alter your grading around what the right answer should be. So another problem I've been having is just to put them in the room the same time. 9 weeks, it goes so fast. If a student doesn't participate first week, second week, and you know, that tells me a lot. I drop them. You know, by the census, I drop them because this student should be there. Lost close to 1/3 of the class, 3 weeks. So, but if I could get them, from my actually looking at my statistics, 90% of students who start with discussion board and you know stay throughout, and about 80 to 90% of them score B and better. So just the problem is how do we get them to the discussion board that motivate them. So, any other thoughts? Good. Well, I think that brings us into the hour, right? And I'm sorry we start kind of late. I kind of want to give you a general idea what we do in our college, and I'm always open to learning. If you have any questions, if you need more activities, you could connect with me, and if you come up across with some good other examples, please email it to me. I appreciate your participation. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I love this. So that's where I guess I get. Yeah, but don't put all the stories, you know, right? Because otherwise they will come in. Right? Yeah, you mean the depending
Up here? I haven't closed out. Well, okay, yes, you could.
Yeah. I lost my, I don't have a station.